When it comes to formatting a shape, simply select the shape, and I've chosen this particular shape here, and on the Home tab in the ribbon, we've looked at the font group, we've looked at the paragraph group, now I want to look at the shape group. First of all, in the shape group we have a fill button, and if I hit the drop down here, I can roll my mouse around and decide on a fill colour. So I might go with this purple. I can also hit the drop down on the line button and decide on a line colour around the outside of the shape, and also decide on the weight, the style, and any other line options I'd like. So I might go for a thicker weight, maybe 2¼ points, and I might go for a different colour, a really dark purple. I also have the option to apply a shadow. If I go into the shadow option, I can choose a shadow colour. In fact, if I go into shadow options, I can choose a bigger shadow style. But I really don't want to apply a shadow, so I'm going to go cancel. Now what I'd like to do is actually apply this formatting to a number of shapes. So I'm going to double click the Format Painter, which you see in the Clipboard group on the Home tab. I'll then click on this shape, this shape, this shape, this shape, and I'm applying that formatting to each shape. And when I'm finished, I'll click the Format Painter button to turn it off. So I could have selected all the shapes and done them in one hit, but sometimes I already have one formatted and I just want to paint that format onto each and every other shape. Also, if you want to format a shape, you can click on a shape and you can press the function key F3, which gives you the ability to also change the shadow and to change the fill colour, but just through a different interface. Grouping shapes is sometimes desirable as well. I may decide that I create a number of individual shapes and then I want to group them together as one shape, so I can easily size it as one, duplicate it as one, and copy and paste it as one shape. So I might decide, for example, that this shape, hold the shift key, and this, and this, and this line, and this shape, I want to group as one object. On the Home tab in the ribbon, in the Arrange group, is a Group button. And if I click the Group button, I can group these as one shape. And as the description here says, join two or more selected shapes together so they'll be treated as one object. And so I've grouped that as one object, which means I can click it, press Ctrl D, and easily duplicate it as if it was one shape. And I'll press the Delete key. I can also click it and resize it as if it was one object. And again, Ctrl Z to undo. If I decide I want to ungroup the shape because I need to make modifications to it, I'll click on the shape, and in the Arrange group, I'll choose the Group button and I'll choose the option to ungroup. And I'll ungroup those shapes, and now they're all individuals again. The other thing you can do is create layering. For example, I might decide to bring in another shape, so I'll bring in another process. I might decide to change its fill colour so that it appears orange, and I'll resize it. If I put this shape on top of this shape, it sits on the top. What I may prefer to do is to actually send it to the back. So I choose the Send Backward button and send to back. And now it's behind this shape. I'll just nudge it down a little bit so you can see that. So you can layer shapes. In fact, if I click on this orange shape and press Ctrl D and make it a different fill colour like green, I now have 3 shapes, and I'll just move this into position. I might now send this one just backward. If I send it backwards, it just goes back one layer. So it's behind the purple, but it's in front of the orange. If I send it to the back directly, now it's behind the purple and the orange, and it's sitting way at the back. If I want to bring this forward one layer, then I'll choose the Bring Forward button. And it brings it forward one layer, or bring it to the front, which sits it on top. So it's not something we do all the time, but sometimes when you have a number of shapes and you want to layer them, You may decide you want to have this one on the front, this one's behind those two, this one's behind those three, and so you bring them forward and send them backwards using these buttons here. And you can ultimately then, if I send that to the back, you could ultimately click each of those shapes, 1, 2, 3, oops, hold the shift key, and turn them into one object by grouping them. And now I have one object which behaves just like one object. If I arrow it, you see it all sticks together. And if I ungroup it, I can then click on an individual and delete it. And so that's grouping, ungrouping, and layering.